I dropped the grocery bags onto the counter with a thud. The paper rustle and clink of canned goods, a familiar sound in the silent house. Another paycheck, another chunk of it gone to keep my mom and my brother, Landon, afloat. Mom called, setting out vegetables I could barely afford for myself. I brought the stuff you asked for. Silence. She should be home. After putting in 12 hours of overtime this week just to pay for these groceries, the last thing I needed was to miss her. I placed the coffee I'd bought her on the counter and walked toward her study. A warm light glowed from under the door. As I pushed it open, her perfume mixed with the scent of old papers. Mom, I'm just gonna leave these. My words trailed off as I saw the document on her desk, the fresh ink gleaming under the lamplight. Big, stark letters jumped out at me. Last will and testament. I read on. Asterisk, asterisk, all property and assets to my beloved son, Landon Gregory Foster. Asterisk, asterisk, the coffee mug I was holding slipped from my fingers, shattering on the floor. Hot coffee splashed my ankles, but I didn't feel a thing. The words on the page blurred as my eyes blinked rapidly, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The date at the bottom was from yesterday. Oh, you weren't supposed to see that. I whirled around to see Brittany, Landon's girlfriend, leaning against the doorframe. Her lips were curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She was wearing a blouse I recognized from a downtown boutique, one I'd admired but couldn't justify buying when it cost a week's worth of groceries. What is this? My voice sounded foreign to me. Brittany shrugged, examining her manicured nails. This is Landon's house now. Elaine signed it over. The room spun. Memories from the last few months flooded my mind. Dad's funeral, where Mom clung to Landon, barely acknowledging me as I stood alone by the casket. Dad, the only one who ever made me feel like I belonged. The dinner afterward, when Mom first told me about her financial problems, her eyes fixed only on me as she detailed the mounting bills. Natalie, what happened? Mom appeared behind Brittany, her eyes dropping from the broken mug to the document on the desk. Her face went pale. You wrote me out. The words felt like stones in my mouth. I've been sending you $1,200 every month since Dad died. I postponed buying my own house to help you keep this one, and you wrote me out. Mom stepped into the room, her shoulders squaring defensively. You make good money, Natalie. Landon needs security more than you do. I stared at her, really seeing her for the first time. Security. I work 60 hours a week while he plays video games in the basement. He's still finding his path. She snapped. My hand shook as I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. The scheduled transfer for tomorrow, another $1,200, stared back at me. My finger hovered over the cancel button. What are you doing? Mom's voice was sharp. What does it look like? My voice was steady now. I pressed cancel and watched the confirmation pop up. I'm done, Elaine. I think we need Landon. Brittany called down the hall. Mom's eyes narrowed. Landon, come upstairs. Your sister is being difficult. Heavy footsteps thundered up the stairs. I felt a pang of grief. Dad's workshop was down there. The space where he taught me to build birdhouses and fix furniture. The last physical connection I had to him, now apparently belonging to my half-brother, who never showed the slightest interest in Dad's craftsmanship. Landon appeared, his hair disheveled, controller marks still pressed into his palms. What's going on? Your sister found the will, Mom said, as if I'd committed some terrible invasion of privacy by discovering their betrayal. As they stood together, a united front against me, a cold clarity washed over me. I've never been a daughter to her. I've been a resource, a reliable income stream, the responsible one who could be counted on to sacrifice, while Landon got everything. We need to talk about this, like adults, Mom said, her tone switching to the soothing one she used when she wanted something. Family helps family. I looked at the three of them, standing together against me, and something inside me finally, irrevocably broke. I stepped back from the confrontation, needing a moment to process what just happened. My mind raced as I walked through the house that once felt like home. Everything looked different, like I was seeing it through a stranger's eyes. The living room caught my attention. A massive 65-inch television dominated the wall where Dad's modest 42-inch used to hang. The sleek black screen reflected my stunned expression. Next to it was a gaming console I recognized from ads, premium model that cost almost a month of my rent. My eyes drifted to Brittany's designer purse on the coffee table. A receipt stuck out. I shouldn't look, but my fingers reached for it anyway. $300 for a salon visit, paid from the joint account I sent money to every month. My knees felt weak. I sank onto the stairs, pressing my fingertips to my temples as if to hold my thoughts together. The realization hit me with physical force. My overtime hours, my postponed house down payment, my exhaustion, all of it had been funding Landon and Brittany's leisurely lifestyle, while I struggled to build my own life. Natalie. Mom's voice came from behind me. We need to talk about this rationally. I turned to see them arranged on the couch, a united front. Mom in the middle, Landon slouched beside her, Brittany perched on the armrest, wearing that blouse I'd admired, the one I calculated would cost me 3 days of work. When did you create the will? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Mom glanced at Landon before answering. Shortly after your father passed. It seemed prudent to get affairs in order, while I was helping you pay the mortgage, I said. Not as a question. Landon shifted uncomfortably. Look, it's not personal. It's just about security. Have you even been looking for work? The words escaped before I could stop them. His laugh held no humor. Not for months. Why bother when we're doing fine? Brittany twirled a strand of freshly highlighted hair. We're actually planning a trip to Cancun next month. You should see the resort. We booked infinity pools overlooking the ocean. The room spun slightly. You're going to Cancun with my money? It's not your money once you give it to us, Brittany said with a shrug. That's how gifts work. I did the math quickly in my head. $28,000. That's how much I'd sent them since Dad died. $28,000 that should have been in my house fund, my retirement account, my emergency savings. I could have completed my project management certification, I whispered, more to myself than to them. I would have qualified for a promotion. Always so career-focused, Mom sighed, just like your father, never understanding the importance of family. The words were a physical blow. Dad was the only one who ever made me feel like family. Landon leaned forward, his expression hardening. Speaking of Dad, I've been thinking, those old workshop tools take up too much space. Might sell them if things get tight around here. I froze. Dad's workshop, the place where he taught me to sand wood until it felt like silk, where he showed me how to build something lasting with my own hands, the one place in this house that still held his presence. You wouldn't, my voice sounded distant. Wouldn't I? Landon's eyes narrowed. They're just collecting dust down there. Your selfishness would disappoint your father, Mom added quietly. After everything we've done for you. Something in me snapped. I stood, my legs suddenly steady. I need some air. I walked past them, down the hallway, toward the basement door. No one followed me as I descended the stairs to Dad's workshop. The familiar scent of sawdust and lemon oil brought tears to my eyes. I ran my hand over his workbench, remembering him standing beside me, guiding my hands. My fingers brushed against a drawer I'd forgotten about, the one where he kept important papers. It was unlocked. Inside, a yellow document caught my eye. I pulled it out with trembling hands. Dad's original will, dated 3 years ago. The words blurred through my tears, but one section was perfectly clear. Asterisk, asterisk, to my daughter Natalie. I leave all tools and equipment from my workshop along with my personal effects. Asterisk, asterisk. As I held that yellowed paper, I wondered if I should confront them immediately or quietly collect what was rightfully mine and walk away. Exposing their lies might bring temporary satisfaction, but a clean break might offer lasting peace. I carefully folded the paper and slipped it into my pocket. Upstairs, I could hear them talking, planning, calculating, without a thought for what they'd taken from me beyond the money. I stood among Dad's beloved tools, the only inheritance that truly mattered, and made my decision. 3 days later, I deleted the third email from Mom without reading it. The subject line, "Your family needs you," burned in my mind anyway. I hesitated over the trash icon on my phone before tapping decisively. Made 15 deleted messages this week. My phone vibrated with a text from Aunt Carol. Natalie, please call your mother. She's beside herself with worry. The irony almost made me laugh. Mom had managed just fine for weeks without showing a hint of concern for my feelings. But now that her financial pipeline was cut, suddenly I was the one causing distress. I was halfway through a response when another message arrived. This one from Uncle Frank. Family supports family. Your father would be disappointed. The words landed like a slap. They didn't know Dad like I did, They didn't see how he'd quietly slipped me extra money when Mom bought Landon new gaming equipment, telling me college textbooks were too expensive. My phone buzzed again. A Facebook notification. Brittany had tagged me in a post. Some people only care about family when it benefits them. She'd written above a meme about loyalty. The comments were full of sympathetic responses from extended family. I switched off my phone and slid it into my desk drawer. The quarterly projections wouldn't complete themselves, and I was already behind. Natalie looked up to find my boss, Richard, standing at my cubicle entrance, his expression neutral. "Do you have a minute?" His office felt smaller than usual. The air conditioner hummed too loudly. "Is everything all right at home?" he asked, sitting in his chair. "You seem distracted lately." "Everything's fine," I said automatically. "The reason I ask is, your mother called the office this morning. Something about a family emergency." The room tilted. "She what?" "She seemed quite upset, asked to speak with you directly." Richard shifted uncomfortably. Explained, "We don't transfer personal calls unless it's an actual emergency." "It's not an emergency," I said, my voice tight. "It's manipulation." Richard blinked, clearly not expecting such directness. "Well, I'm concerned about how it might affect your work. The Henderson account, I'll have it finished by tomorrow, I promise." I was already rising from my chair. "And I apologize for the interruption. It won't happen again." Back at my desk, I opened my browser and blocked Mom on all my social media accounts. Then I created a new document titled Financial Contributions and began listing every transfer, grocery delivery, and bill payment I'd made on their behalf since Dad died. The total made my stomach clench. That night, I woke up at 3:17 a.m., heart racing from a dream where I was drowning while Mom, Landon, and Brittany watched from the shore, drinking cocktails bought with my credit card. I reached for my phone, then stopped myself. Whatever new messages awaited could stay unread until morning. The next day, I was updating my LinkedIn profile when a notification appeared. Mom had somehow found my professional contacts and sent messages about a family emergency requiring financial assistance. 2 colleagues had already forwarded her messages to me. Their concern was evident in their careful wording. "Do you need to take some personal time?" they asked. I was composing a professional explanation when a hand touched my shoulder. "Working through lunch again?" Margaret asked, setting her coffee mug on my desk. She'd been with the company 20 years, her silver-streaked hair and confident posture commanding respect. "Just putting out fires," I replied, minimizing the email window. She glanced at my phone where a text from Landon glowed. "Family drama." I hesitated, then nodded. "My brother did the same thing to me for years," she said quietly, her fingers tightening slightly on my shoulder. "The guilt isn't yours to carry." Something in my chest loosened. For the first time in weeks, someone understood without needing the whole story. The following Saturday, I pulled into Mom's driveway. Dad's workshop sat in the detached garage, untouched since his death. I'd come for his tools, the ones he promised would be mine. The door creaked open before I reached it. Mom stood in the entryway, arms crossed. "Finally decided to remember where you live?" she asked. "I'm here for Dad's tools," I answered, walking past her toward the garage. "You can't just take things because you want them," she called, following me. "Everything here belongs to Landon now." The workshop smelled like Dad's sawdust and the lemon oil he used on his wooden handles. I ran my fingers over his workbench, remembering Saturday mornings spent at his side. "Why can't you just help your brother?" Mom demanded from the doorway. "He's sensitive. Not everyone can handle the real world like you." I grabbed an empty toolbox and began carefully selecting the chisels Dad used to teach me wood carving. "That's because you never made him try." I was surprised by the steadiness in my voice. "Dad would be heartbroken to see how you've turned him." "You don't know what David would think," she snapped. But I did. I remembered Dad's disappointed sighs when Mom made excuses for Landon, the quiet conversations he and I had about responsibility while we worked on projects. The realization washed over me like cold water. I've been chasing approval Mom never intended to give. Every financial sacrifice, every overtime shift, every delayed dream, none of it was ever going to make her love me the way she loves Landon. My back straightened as I continued packing. Each tool was a memory of the only parent who truly saw me. The screen door slammed as Landon emerged from the house. "You can't take that stuff," he shouted. "It's mine now," I continued, working, wrapping Dad's favorite hand plane in an old towel before placing it carefully in the box. I never loved you the way I loved Landon, Mom said flatly from the doorway. My hands paused for a moment, then I continued packing. This truth, finally spoken, felt freeing rather than devastating. Later that evening, Margaret sat at my kitchen table, reading the draft of a boundaries email I'd composed for the extended family. "This is good," she said, making a small change, clear without being cruel. "Will it actually help?" I asked, pouring us both more tea. "It might not change their behavior," she admitted, "but it will change how much access they have to you." Unlike my family's demands, Margaret's advice came with no strings attached. She listened without interrupting, validated without qualification, and offered help without expecting payment. That night, I slept until morning for the first time in weeks. At work, my focus returned. The Henderson presentation received compliments from the entire team. The following week, I scheduled a consultation with Patricia Winters, an attorney specializing in financial recovery. In my bag was Dad's handwritten letter, discovered tucked inside his toolbox, explicitly stating his wish for me to have his workshop tools and personal effects. As I walked into the attorney's office, my phone buzzed 3 times. Text messages from Landon, Mom, and Brittany arrived simultaneously. I silenced the phone without reading them and stepped through the door, ready to reclaim what was mine. That day, I spread my financial records across Mr. Peterson's polished mahogany desk. Each document was meticulously organized. The spreadsheet of transfers was on top, 23 months of faithful $1,200 payments highlighted in yellow. Below that, screenshots of text messages, each one a masterpiece of manipulation from Elaine. "I need your help with the electric bill this month, sweetie. Landon's job hunting is taking longer than expected. Could you possibly send next month's support early? The property taxes are due." I tapped the third folder. "Here's the documentation of broken promises." My voice was steadier than I expected. Each time they assured me the money was for necessities, followed by evidence of their actual purchases. Mr. Peterson adjusted his reading glasses, reviewing each document with methodical precision. His office felt like a fortress, quiet, orderly, safe from the chaos my family created. The wall clock ticked softly, marking time I'd never get back. "Based on what you've provided, Miss Foster, you have grounds for financial recovery." He removed his glasses, meeting my gaze directly. "We can send certified letters requesting an itemized accounting of how your support funds were used." I nodded, pulling out my phone. "I'm ready to implement the next step." With 3 taps, I blocked Elaine, Landon, and Brittany on every platform. The weight that lifted from my shoulders felt physical, like putting down a burden I'd carried so long I'd forgotten it wasn't part of me. "It's done," I told Mr. Peterson, surprised by the unfamiliar lightness in my voice. The doorbell rang that evening as I was heating leftover pasta. Through the peephole, I saw Landon shifting nervously. I cracked the door without unlatching the security chain. "Mom's too distraught to function," he announced. "She hasn't eaten since yesterday. This is on you, Natalie. Please leave, Landon." His voice rose. "You can't just cut us off. We're family. Is everything okay over there?" Mrs. Abernathy, my 70-year-old neighbor, appeared in her doorway, telephone in hand. Landon pounded his fist against my doorframe. "Tell your lawyer to stop harassing us with those letters." Mrs. Abernathy disappeared briefly, returning with Mr. Garcia from 4B. "Young man, I've called building security," she announced, firmly. Landon stomped away, shouting about family loyalty. The elevator doors cut off his tirade. The next morning, Margaret forwarded me a link. "Thought you should see this." Her message read. The GoFundMe page featured a photo of Elaine looking appropriately distressed, captioned, "Abandoned by daughter during family crisis." The description detailed how I'd heartlessly cut off support to my grieving mother and brother. I was still staring at it when my phone pinged with an unfamiliar number. "Natalie, it's Jack Wilson. I worked with your dad at the hardware store for years. Listen, Elaine pulled this same routine with David's brother after they married. Call me if you want the details." 3 more messages arrived before noon, each from family friends, sharing eerily similar stories about Elaine's manipulative patterns. When Dad's old friend offered to mediate a family meeting, I hesitated. Would giving them one more chance honor David's memory, or just provide them another opportunity to manipulate me? Saturday morning, Margaret and 2 coworkers met me outside Elaine's house. The familiarity of the place hit me differently now, the chipped paint on the mailbox, the uneven stepping stones I'd memorized as a child. "You don't have to do this alone," Margaret said, squeezing my arm. Inside, Elaine's eyes widened at the sight of my support team. She opened her mouth, then closed it. "I'm just here for my personal items," I explained calmly. With Margaret beside me, I methodically collected childhood photos, school mementos, and the blanket Dad made me for my 16th birthday. Elaine hovered nearby, but remained uncharacteristically silent. The power of witnesses. Back home, I found an email from Mr. Peterson. He'd sent a formal cease and desist letter regarding Elaine's unannounced visit to my workplace yesterday. I hadn't even known she'd tried. My phone rang as I was making dinner. "Uncle Robert, Dad's younger brother, your cousin showed me that fundraiser Elaine posted," he said. "Something doesn't add up, Natalie. She's claiming medical expenses, but David had excellent life insurance specifically to cover that. The GoFundMe tally had stalled at $340, all from immediate family members. No new donations in 24 hours. My voicemail indicator blinked as I ended the call. Elaine's voice filled my kitchen, sounding smaller than I remembered. "Natalie, we should talk about what happened with David's will. There are things you don't understand. Call me." I deleted the message. The next week I stood in the doorway of Mom's kitchen, watching as she and Landon exchanged nervous glances. The space felt smaller, as if the walls had inched closer since I stopped bankrolling their lifestyle. Bills fanned across the counter like fallen leaves, red stamped warnings peeking from beneath white envelopes. "Natalie," Mom began, her voice honey-sweet, "we've been thinking about our situation." Landon nodded, his hands clasped with uncharacteristic formality. "We want to work something out." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "What kind of something?" "A compromise," Mom said, sliding a folded document across the counter. "We've drafted a new will, one that includes you." I didn't move to take it. The paper sat between us like a trap. "Half the house," Landon added quickly, "and Dad's workshop stays intact." Mom's eyes darted to the stack of bills. "We just need a little help getting back on our feet. The mortgage payment is due next week, and there's the property tax coming up." "What Mom's trying to say," Landon interrupted, his tone softer than I'd heard in years, "is that we might have to sell the house if things don't turn around soon." From the living room, Brittany's voice carried through the hallway. "Yeah, the oceanfront villa looks amazing. Does it have a hot tub? Perfect for when Landon and I visit in August." Mom winced, shooting a look toward the living room. "This house holds all our memories, Natalie. Your childhood, the holidays, your father." I took a deep breath, reaching into my bag. "I brought something to show you." Their expressions brightened with anticipation. Instead of a checkbook, I placed a manila folder on the counter. "This is my mortgage pre-approval," I said, my voice steady, "for my own home." Mom's face went slack. "What?" I slid another document forward, a bank statement showing a healthy savings account balance. "This is what I've managed to save since I stopped sending you money." Landon stared at the numbers, his eyes widening. "I'm not responsible for keeping you comfortable while you refuse to support yourselves," I said, pulling out another folder. "So, I brought you these." I opened it to reveal a stack of printed job listings. Each one was highlighted and annotated. "Every single one of these positions is within walking distance of this house. No car needed, no excuses." I remained standing as Mom sank into a kitchen chair. Landon followed suit. For the first time, I was physically above them, looking down as they processed my words. "You can't be serious," Landon said, shoving the job listings away. "These are service jobs. They're honest work," I countered. "Something you've avoided for years." Mom reached for my hand. "Natalie, please, we're family." I stepped back, slipping my house key from my key ring. The brass caught the light as I placed it deliberately on the counter, with a soft clink. "But we're family," Landon protested. "You can't just leave us hanging." "Family supports each other," I said, my voice low but firm. "They don't drain each other dry." Mom's face hardened. "Your father would be so disappointed." The words were meant to land like a slap, but I was prepared. I reached into my pocket and unfolded a worn piece of paper. Dad's handwriting was instantly recognizable. "Actually, I found this in his workshop toolbox," I said, smoothing the letter on the counter. "It's dated 3 weeks before he died." Mom's eyes darted to the paper, but she didn't reach for it. I read aloud, Asterisk asterisk, my dear Natalie, I've watched you grow into a woman of incredible strength and independence. While others might see your practicality as coldness, I see how deeply you care through your actions rather than empty words. I'm so proud of the boundaries you're learning to set. Never apologize for protecting yourself. All my love, Dad. Asterisk asterisk, the kitchen fell silent. Even Brittany's chatter from the other room had stopped. Dad always saw me clearly, I said, carefully refolding the letter. That's something you never did. I turned to leave, but paused at the doorway. The furniture is paid off. The car, too. You have assets you can sell before the house. Or you could get jobs like everyone else. As I walked to my car, the weight I'd carried for years seemed to lift with each step. 2 weeks later, my cousin mentioned that Landon had started dropping off applications at local businesses. I deleted the message without responding. December approached, and the annual family Christmas gathering loomed. 3 separate relatives had asked if I'd attend, their messages carefully worded to avoid taking sides. I hadn't answered any of them. My phone lit up with a new text as I was hanging Dad's old workshop calendar in my apartment. It was from Aunt Sharon. Asterisk asterisk, coffee next week, just you and me, away from Elaine. Asterisk asterisk. I looked at the message for a long time, thumb hovering over the screen, wondering what came next. In April, I hung the last of Dad's tools on the pegboard wall in my new home. Stepping back to admire the careful arrangement, the worn wooden handles gleamed under the soft garage lighting. Each one was positioned exactly where my hands would reach for them, just like Dad taught me. Perfect, I whispered, running my fingers over his favorite hand plane. Unlike those months of agonizing over Mom's approval, this decision how to arrange his cherished tools came easily, without a second thought. Last night, I slept straight through until morning for the 3rd time this week. No jolting awake at 3 a.m. wondering if another manipulative text had arrived. No calculating how many more months of support payments would delay my down payment. The financial stability chart on my refrigerator showed the steady climb since I stopped the transfer. 6 months of growth instead of depletion. The doorbell chimed through the house, my house, with its freshly painted walls and hardwood floors that needed no one's approval but my own. Coming, I called, setting down Dad's level and making my way to the front door. The housewarming gathering was small but meaningful, exactly what I wanted. Margaret arrived first, a potted peace lily in her arms. You did it, she said, looking around with genuine admiration. This place is beautiful, Natalie. I welcomed each guest with a confidence I barely recognized in myself. When Margaret's husband asked about my family, I answered without the usual twist of shame in my stomach. They're not part of my life right now, I said simply. My family is the one I've chosen, the people who support my growth rather than stunt it. The words flowed easily, without the rehearsed quality they once had. Margaret squeezed my hand, understanding the journey those words represented. Later, we gathered in the backyard. String lights twinkled overhead, and the evening carried the scent of blooming jasmine. My small patio table, another weekend project completed with Dad's tools, held an assortment of desserts and wine glasses. Margaret raised her glass to building foundations that last. The others joined in, glasses clinking as sunset painted the sky above my new home, my home. The phrase still sent a thrill through me each time I thought it. And to the builder, added Ken, Margaret's husband, nodding toward the garage where Dad's tools hung, both the original and his worthy successor. The following weekend, I began transforming the back section of the garage into a proper workshop. I positioned Dad's workbench beneath the window, where natural light streamed in. The local community college catalog sat open on the kitchen counter, the woodworking class schedule circled in red. Next term, I'll be teaching a beginner's course, something Dad always talked about doing. At work, my promotion came through last week. My boss mentioned how my renewed focus and creative energy had impressed the entire department. The late nights once spent calculating how to stretch my budget to cover Mom's demands now fueled projects that advanced my career. Driving home from the hardware store with supplies for display shelves for my future students, I passed a construction site with a now hiring sign. For a moment, I considered texting the information to Landon. My thumb hovered over his contact information, still saved in my phone despite everything. Then I smiled and drove on, turning up the radio as I headed toward home.